From sunny Southern California, we bring you Meet Bridget, a podcast for building confident communication and female badassery. We spotlight women who have bridged the gaps in their lives by building strong relationships and speaking their teenage dreams into reality.
Bring it on, baby!
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
Welcome back to Meet Bridget, Season 5. I'm Asha Gabriel, and I co-host the show alongside my best friend, Kashia Rosenberg. Our show is a giant library of career and life path options for young women to relate to by sharing the honest and unfiltered teenage stories of a diverse array of successful women. We believe that confidence starts with self-trust, and it grows through authentic community. Tapping back into our formative years makes this Meet Bridget community a place where women of all stages and ages can connect on common ground. Today, I am so delighted for you to meet Lisa Hubbard. Lisa is an internationally recognized Pilates educator and founder of Rhythm Pilates and creator of Forever Young for Core First Pilates. With over 25 years of experience, she is a nationally certified Pilates teacher, an affiliate Bossy Pilates faculty member, a Body Pilates trainer, and a Pilates Anytime visiting instructor. Lisa is also a certified yoga instructor, a licensed gyrotonic trainer, and a health and wellness coach through the Institute of Integrative Nutrition. Lisa continues to teach privately, lead live Zoom classes, and share her passion for movement, health, and wellness. She's widely regarded as one of the most distinguished and influential Pilates educators in the industry. I'm so excited to have you on, Lisa. If you're watching this, you can see her here. You've got to check out her website to see just her incredible knowledge about Pilates, and it shows in the way that she carries herself. It's at lisahubbardpilates.com, or you can check her out on social media. But thank you for joining me today, Lisa. I'm just so excited to sit down with you.
Hi, Asha. Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be here. Thank you so much. I'm excited to talk to you today.
Well, I feel like, Pilates is so hot these days. Everyone knows Pilates. But to have the amount of experience that you have, I have a feeling that you've been doing Pilates from the point where it was like kind of no one knew about it yet, up through now. Can you tell us a little bit about just a career in Pilates and why it's the right fit for you?
Sure. Well, I discovered Pilates dancing, and I became really intrigued with the method because I was told that this is the all-encompassing to make everything that you do better, and it holds true to that. 25 years ago, I started seeking out the best in Orange County, and I met Rael Isakowitz of Bossy Pilates, and from my first class, it was like, this is something that I really, really wanted to explore further. I feel like Pilates allowed me, since I wasn't such a gym person, allowed me to connect to myself for the first time. Pilates demands your concentration, a lot of body awareness, and I love those types of modalities where you go inward, and it really, really just changed the trajectory of my life when I decided that I wanted to go through the teacher training program. So I discovered Pilates in the late 90s. I did it a couple of years and decided I'm going to go through the program in 1999. And I graduated in 2000, and fast forward about 7 years after working with Rael and becoming faculty, I started teaching around the world. His comprehensive teacher training program. So teaching people to become teachers.
Cool.
And then a couple years after that, I founded Rhythm Pilates, which is Pilates mat work choreographed to music. And then it just has kind of unfolded. I've taught that method all over the world as well. Had a great network through Bossy Pilates, and I'm just very eternally grateful for the method. It has improved my golf. It's improved just my thought about wellness and movement in general. It allowed me to do everything I do better.
What do you think it takes to be a good fitness trainer in general, but specifically Pilates teacher?
I think it caring for others' well-being. Movement is such great medicine for the body. Pilates, I believe, I was asked the other day, what do you think is the biggest health hack? And I believe breathing. Breathing is such a key, and it's so key in Pilates. So it calms the nervous system, it oxygenates the blood. So anybody looking to find themselves and become a healthy person, I think that Pilates is one of the greatest modalities. Posture, a lot of us are sitting, doing our work, driving, a lot of, sedated things. And Pilates really helps you become much more aware of everything. It's not just movement. It's not just exercise. It's really a lifestyle.
What you said about breathing so resonates with me. I grew up as a ballerina, and ballet for me was so expressive. I was kind of a more quiet young person. And for me, like, movement was my way of like expressing myself. But when I found, I came to school at UCLA, and when I found it was yoga first, it was like transformative, because I was like, oh my God, breathing? Because I feel like my whole career in ballet, I didn't think about my breath once. And I was probably honestly holding it most of the time to keep that, like, you're looking at yourself in the mirror and all your lines and everything, which you still kind of do in Pilates, but Pilates and in yoga, there's so much, it's really like, you start with your breath and then you build the movement from that. Like, if you're not breathing properly, you should probably minimize, and get down to the basics of your movement first. And that really flipped things on its head for me. I realized, like, wow, I'm in ballet. I felt like I was really focused on what I externally looked like, and that was a different practice. And then Pilates and yoga really brought me inside my body.
Yes. I'm also a certified yoga teacher. And I mean, the breathing modality, or the breathing with yoga and Pilates, are a little bit different. Diaphragmatic versus your lateral breathing in Pilates. So you can maintain the abdominal contraction as you're performing as a dancer, as you know. I don't think that they really teach in dance how to breathe. Like you said, you're holding your breath a lot and pulling in your core without really knowing it. But really, the breath is it's life. We begin with it and we end with it. So I think breathing is so important. It helps calm, like doing this before the podcast, I'm doing my breathing exercise.
Totally. I do too. And we've taught public speaking. I see it as kind of ironic in my life, because I used to be terrified of getting up in a crowd and speaking or whatever. And I've realized, like, it was a thing that was so scary to me, but now it's like, actually, like, my passion is behind that fear, but so much of public speaking is just like getting into your body to start, and then you can focus on your message and where it's going and who you're speaking to, but really just like taking some breaths and like calming your nervous system down, realizing that you're okay and you're safe, and then doing what you're going to do is so, so powerful and free for everybody to, harness at any time. For your training, so you said Bossy is a very like world-renowned Pilates training organization. I've like looked into it before, because I love Pilates and yoga. And I just love movement so much that periodically, being like the hyper curious person I am, I'm always like, oh, what would it look like to be a professional in that? But I mean, it's around the world, but we have this hub in Orange County. Can you tell us a little bit about the different Pilates training options available, how that's usually structured, how much time it usually takes? Can you break that down for someone that might be interested in that?
Sure. Well, I was working as in the corporate world, and if someone's working a full-time job already, it is accessible to them. You can do it online. The courses today, there are so many other courses available now than back 25 years ago. They were longer. Very rigorous. My program was 6 months, so I did it part-time. I would do it over the weekends, and then you have your observation hours and your teaching hours and things like that. So there's so many great education out there for Pilates. There's Balance Bodies, Stop Pilates, Marathon, so many, and then there's other outfits, I will say, that you can kind of do a shorter course, a weekend course. So if you're really looking for education and a really comprehensive, that's important. You want to really do your research looking into a comprehensive teacher training program. There's also programs, for instance, Balance Body. They offer Reformer 1 and 2, and then a 3, and then they will move into the Cadillac and then the Wonder Chair. So they'll break it down in pieces of apparatus. Mine was kind of the whole enchilada, the mat work, all of the mat work, and then all of the Reformer incorporating spine corrector work, all of the other pieces of apparatus that Pilates has to offer in one big chunk. So it was, so there's so many options, but I feel like Bassi Pilates gives you a comprehensive into becoming an instructor, and it can be done, if you're tired of the corporate world, like, I realized one day as I was working out with the faculty member, I was like, I want to do this.
Yeah.
I want to become what you are. I want to help people feel better. I want to help people. I have seen so many transformations in the studio. I was introduced to so many different people with limitations, for instance, back surgeries. They have, there are people with strokes. And I got a really good taste into helping people, and I love that. I love helping people feel good and feel their best, improve their posture, and calm their minds, release emotional attachments. Even when it's it can be very intimate when you're working privately with someone, and you can really help them let go of things that they have stored in their bodies, and it's quite remarkable.
I feel like all those little tiny movements or the hold sometimes, it's so interesting because it's like, sometimes I think about all the different types of workouts we can do, and it's like, oh, Pilates, like I usually don't have to wash my hair after. So it kind of seems like something that's accessible to me. I'm not going to be like, I often end up actually sweating quite a bit, but it's in those little pulses, the little holds, where it's like, wow, this is way harder than it seems like it should be. And then you go through like all those little, but I'm okay. I can stay for 15 more seconds. Like I'm not dying, and just kind of getting through that mental process of all these little intricate movements. And then also realizing, like, being humbled when you're in Pilates, where it's like, okay, maybe I'm realizing that, like, okay, all the leg stuff feels really strong to me, but this little, like, my upper back and the postural stuff, I'm like, I got to really lighten the springs and like get the form down on this, and that it's going to be unique to every person. I think that's so personalized.
Exactly. Yes. It's kind of like, so you have a canvas walking in, and you're already looking at their gait. You're already looking at their posture. You're kind of assessing them already. And the way I was taught, each and every exercise is information for you to progress. So if you realize that someone is in a bridge, their hip flexors are tight and their knees are splaying out to the side, you'll allow for some props. You'll get some props so they can hold the position more properly, or you'll limit the movement. And then from there, you just kind of build up onto that, never giving the client more than what they can handle. And that's why privates are so important, especially when you're starting to work in Pilates. It's very valuable to invest in yourself with a seasoned and well-trained Pilates instructor. Because there's a lot of people that do get injured. So, on the other side, there's, group classes have become so popular and the form is off. There's so many people in the class. The music is really loud. They're wearing microphones. They're walking around just telling you the next thing. And it's not about the individual. It's just about a whole and getting through the choreography, or, trying to, giving them a little bit too much than what they're really ready for, is what I found at some places. So, yeah, I think it's important to really listen to your body, and it's going to tell you if something's not right.
Well, I also feel like reformer Pilates specifically can be super intimidating to people. It's so valuable. I feel like I corrected a lot of imbalances in my own body from doing yoga for so many years and realizing this is my strong leg and I'm way more open here. And I need to it shows you, right, where you're, if you're off, the instructor can see. But I've been trying to get my mom into Pilates and she's like, oh, I can't go to a class. I'm like, that's where that one-on-one, book some privates, get familiar with the machine and your body and how it moves. Yeah. And if you have adjustments you need to make, then that's something, once you have that foundation, then you can take it into a group exercise class where you already kind of know what you're doing. And then you're just kind of there, to follow a workout or have some community or, whatever might bring you there.
Yes.
It sounds like a lot of your training, in Pilates, you really have to understand physiology of the body as well. Is there in the trainings that you did, was there a good portion where you're really just understanding musculature, movement patterns and that kind of thing?
Yes. I have a master that taught me. The course was extremely heavy on anatomy, biomechanics of the body, and really what is the biggest help is the experience with all different types of body types. You have a tall person, a big person, you have a person with metal in their back, you have, people with certain limitations. And the beauty of the work is that it's accessible for everybody. So yeah, there was a lot of anatomy, but your clients today don't really want to hear how to engage your serratus. You want to just be able to give them a cue that they can put to action right away, because that's the key, is that you can't stop to explain the biomechanics as you're conducting a class.
You have to translate almost what's going on in your mind. You're like, okay, this is my Pilates speak is going on. And then how can I actually, give a cue that someone's going to be like, oh yeah,
Exactly. And that's why it's so important that, the teacher themselves have such a great foundation in the work. That they know how to tell a person to engage their serratus. How are you going to do that? How are you going to tell them to draw their, pelvic floor in and up and lengthen out and down, or out, and around. It's just a visual. It's kind of like storytelling a little bit. So, and so satisfying. It's just so satisfying when you can get a person to do something. They have to be present too.
Yeah. And listening, honestly, it's I think that's one of the most, for me, gratifying moments of being in yoga or Pilates is you have to be in the moment, and kind of see, because you don't know what's coming next unless it's one of those classes where it's the same thing every single time. And it's pay attention and then kind of see how you're moving and what you need to adjust, and checking in over and over.
Giving yourself that time for yourself is so important. Yeah.
With people that you work with, how much do you feel that nutrition plays into their results and how you're able to help them? And how's your own personal nutrition philosophy you developed over these years doing what you do?
Wow. Well, yes. I mean, nutrition is key in wellness, health and wellness. A lot of my clients will ask me, what do you do? What do you eat? Do you eat meat? I eat everything, but it's well sourced. And, I'm like, the more I am in this industry, the more I become interested in health and wellness and longevity and anti-aging and living vibrantly. So it's more than just Pilates that I teach. Yes. So I will help people choose, if they ask me, what are you doing for your skin, or what are you eating, or what's your favorite this, or what's your favorite that. So yes, I do try to guide them, but it's really ultimately up to them. A lot of people want to lose weight. So, what do you eat?
Yeah.
That's like, what do you eat? Oh, you eat a lot of carbs. Oh, why don't you incorporate some protein into that?
Mm-hmm.
You should always have a little you should always have protein in your meals to maintain your muscle mass. And so you're in that state of burning carbs and burning fat at the same time. You don't want to be kind of just burning carbs all the time.
Yeah. I feel like, especially like my mom's generation, but most of us, we were marketed a long time that like, oh, women should just be, low carb and eat salads, and just stay as small as possible, and I experienced a complete retraining of my understanding of nutrition when I started incorporating some weight into my workouts. But then I really had to like eat a lot more protein than I thought I ever should, so afraid. I was like, I'm going to bulk. And then what I found was like, oh no, everything got like tighter, stronger. I got my like results were showing up much faster. Like I had more energy, my hair was growing, and it was really kind of everything I didn't think was going to happen did happen as a result of just having enough protein to sustain my activity level.
Yes, and especially, after 40s and perimenopause and menopause, it's very important to have the protein. I'm going to be 56 this year, and I eat about 95 grams, 100 grams of protein a day.
Yeah.
And that's a lot in comparison. And a couple years ago, when I wanted to build muscle, I went to the gym, and, I was kind of doing what you're saying, a lot of salads and trying to keep lean and things like that. And my trainer said, you need to eat a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
You need a lot more calorie intake. You need tons more protein than what you're consuming now. So I have this thing called Lumen, and it checks it will give you advice on how much protein you should have, carbs, and healthy fats per day. So I follow that, and it's working pretty well. And
like it.
I broke my wrist last year, almost a year ago. Well, yesterday, and I atrophied quite a bit because I was not moving, and it's now I feel like I'm restarting. I'm restarting everything. My strength, my flexibility. I've gotten some tightness in my back, my hip flexors. So the past year, I've just been more about self-care and listening to my inner child, what she needs. And really, I have all of these, rituals and routines that, for my body, my mind, and, just my mind and body and my spirit. So definitely we become wiser as we get older. When I was younger, we would have TV dinners, or my mom would cook, but, my mom was a great cook, but she would cook a lot, but it was a lot of food that I didn't like. I didn't actually like eating as a kid. Mm-hmm. And now I love everything. I have a ravenous appetite, believe it or not.
Well, I do think like our bodies are so adaptable that, when I'll tell friends or trainers, like the amount of calories like I eat per day, they're like, what? That's like a man, or it's like, there's no way you're eating that much. It's like, yeah, because like my activity, I've trained my body to like, thrive on this amount of food that our bodies are just so incredible. And when you give them what they need, they thrive and they feed you in return. You said something really interesting about when you decided to go into the Pilates industry that you were, you were working with somebody that was training you and you were like, I want to do what you're doing. And so much of what our mission is at Meet Bridget is like that experience for anyone that might either be starting a career, they're a young woman, or maybe switching careers or, reinvesting in themselves after children or whatnot, that this could be a place where it's like, oh, like that, connecting with a woman and being like, wait, I could do what you're doing. Can you tell us a little bit more about like that transition? What were you doing before you switched to Pilates, and how was the difference once you found a path that felt more aligned with you?
Well, I've had many jobs. I have many jobs. The job that I was in, I was there for about 10 years. I was in sales. I worked for a company that sold digital printers for Ricoh, Toshiba, IBM. So I was out and about. It was outside sales. It was fun. I loved it. I was successful at it. But when I discovered Pilates, it was just after period of time, I thought I can definitely do that. I just really kind of stopped mid of workout and just said, you know what? I sat up and I said, I want to do what you do. She was so inspiring. She was one of the, just an amazing human in terms of how she taught. It was she was very quiet, but very powerful. And I thought, wow, I just admired her. And I admired my mentor, Rail. And I loved how he ran his business. I loved how he has something called the block system. So it's a whole wheel of movement. It's not just focusing on one area of the body. It's the whole body. And I love that whole body approach to his method. So yes, I decided I'm going to go through the program. I talked to my boss and he said, okay, sure. You can take a couple days. You can leave early for work and go do this thing a couple times a day, a couple times a week, excuse me. So a couple times a week I'd leave. I'd start at 2 and then I'd be done at 7 or something like that. It was like a part-time. So I kind of transitioned out of that. Then my sales position allowed me to work from home. So I was working from home, maintaining my accounts, but teaching more and more and more Pilates. And then eventually I thought, this isn't fair to my sales company. I just need to let it go. You got to let it go, cut the cord and go all in with Pilates. I think it's, if you're interested in, if you're not completely fulfilled in what you're doing, it will creep up and, it'll affect your happiness. It'll affect your joy. So I truly love what I do. I truly find joy in seeing people transform their whole, not just their body, but their mindset, and how it just continues to grow them. We're always growing. We're never stagnant. So, and older we become, the more wise we become, and the more important our health and wellness and longevity is.
Absolutely. Can you tell us a little bit about Rhythm Pilates and that music to movement connection and what that's meant to you?
Sure. Yes. Well, I was on a teaching assignment in Asia, and I was so inspired by everything that I saw there. I thought, okay, I'm just teaching mat class. Like, how boring is that? But not really, right?
Uh-huh.
And I love dance, and I wanted to create something to music. But in Pilates, we don't do that.
Yeah.
We do not add music to Pilates. So it was really scary for me to even have this, idea. And my husband went with me on this trip and he said, yeah, I think you should do that. So that's when Rhythm Pilates was born. And I was so apprehensive to do anything about it. So I hired a master gyrotonic, master Pilates trainer to help me choreograph Rhythm Pilates, making sure that I didn't dilute the method in any way, shape, or form. So it took me a couple years to create it, get the trademark, and start marketing it. And it became like one of the most popular classes on PilatesAnytime.com. So that gave me more motivation. Then it got more popular. So I started teaching it around the world. I got to go to Italy and all these great places to teach teachers. So it wasn't that I was making teachers. It was meant for teachers who already had a great foundation. And it was beautiful for dancers. They easily picked it up and it was fun. You know, it was fun creating it. And I haven't taught it in quite some time. And I'm thinking of maybe a Rhythm Pilates 2.0.
Yeah. I just love that idea because, you know, is anyone with a dance background or a music background, I feel like when I'm able to, I think there's obvious benefits of like silence and quiet and just like really being in the movement. But I feel like once you have your fundamentals down and everything, when you add music, I feel like I've been in moments where like the music gives me this rhythm that like I can turn off the like questioning part of my brain and it's more just like being in the moment. You know, I feel like I can do so much more with music for whatever reason. I'm sure a lot of runners and stuff can relate to that too. I'm not a runner, but I think that's such a great idea and an innovation in that space.
It really, it kind of peels away certain things. It allows you to be expressive. It really opens up. Music is really powerful depending upon what music you're using. But yeah, it can be very powerful for the experience. Yeah. And it's just so freeing and fun. And you feel so accomplished after that.
Totally.
Learning it. Because we learned, I taught it in sections because heavily choreographed. Cool. Almost too much.
Okay, now I have to try.
Like seriously choreographed. You had like, 2 8 counts to do this. And then you had this, fan kick going to the other side and you only had like a 4 count to get there.
Yeah.
So today recreating it, I would slow it down a bit and but those were the most fun, actually.
Yeah. Well, and it's like the challenge of it. I can imagine you have to be so present to just be like, okay, what's coming next? And like, how am I going to get there? And trusting your body to do that with the music. I'd love to take it back to as early as you can remember, like the foundations of your personality, some of the things that might have stuck around in your mind. Like you're clearly very much doing something you love and you're in your lane as a woman. Can you paint the picture of who you were when you were a young girl or entering your teen years?
Sure. Well, as a young girl, I was quiet, or I was very internal. I'm a middle child. My sisters and I are 2 years apart, and my brother and I are about 12 years apart from another second marriage. So growing up, I was my sisters would pick on me. So that's number one. My oldest sister, when I was young, she really wanted to, take care of me and be my friend. But as I got a little bit older, then it was becoming more of like competitive. Mm-hmm. She had to be the best at everything. She wanted more attention from daddy and, she wasn't getting it. So she kind of started to resent me. And then she'd tell my little sister to go beat me up and you're like, So I was kind of pushed around as a little child, as a kid, and then one day I just socked my little sister and she never did it again. That's just kind of brutal. But
Yeah.
I felt different. I felt a little bit kind of an outcast side, kind of sort of with my sisters. I was always teased about being skinny. My sister said, "You have worms because you're so skinny," and just some really mean things. My other sisters were kind of the hefty girls, and I was always teased. And so, but I felt like I didn't belong there.
Mm.
And I just would kind of daydream about traveling the world and being somewhere else. And I was meant to be someone else or something else more than this. So I daydream a lot about being a dancer, being a model, traveling the world, seeing new things. And so, I've kind of done those things.
Yeah. Where did you grow up?
I was born in Pasadena, and most of my years were in Chino. We had a ranch. We had horses, chickens. We had a mean goose. We had tons of dogs. We had cats. My mom would be taking in all the strays or, birds. We had a wild bird. She'd, rehabilitate. So we had a lot of responsibility growing up. Before we went to school, we had to do our chores. And then when we got home, we had to do some more chores. And we were always constantly, doing something. We had a garden that had to be maintained. If we got in trouble, we'd, have to go pull the weeds or clean the kitchen. The chicken coop, So it was a lot of outdoors. We lived across the street from a massive field and like an old dairy farm.
Cool.
There was cows over there with haystacks. So we'd go ride our horses in the field, and we'd have egg fights in the haystack real high, and with our friends. So that's where I grew up. And then my mom moved us right as I was about to graduate 8th grade to go into high school. She moved us to Bakersfield. So, yeah.
How was that transition? I feel like big moves for young people, it can be a lot.
It was really a lot. Basically, I didn't understand why we were moving. That was our home. And, all of our friends were there. We had such great roots there. And, when she decided to move, and we got to the house, I was so disheartened and like heartbroken. I was like, we left that for this? And it was very difficult for all of us, probably mainly my older sister and I. It was kind of like, I don't know, whatever my mother was running away from, maybe some financial problems. So it was difficult. I had to finish 8th grade at a new school. I was the girl from LA, and nobody, everybody was kind of mean to me again. And I never really had any great friends after that. So it was difficult. And then I went to high school, and I was 13. My mom kind of pushed me through. I was 13 in 9th grade, with no transcripts. I don't know. It was just kind of bizarre. So my older sister had gained weight. She didn't want to go to school yet. So then she's getting married at 16. Wow. My mom said, sure, go ahead. And then in my sophomore year, I became pregnant.
Wow.
And, my mother knew I was pregnant. She kind of encouraged it somewhat. She knew I had a very serious boyfriend, and I would cut class and go to his house, and his mother would let me in, and she knew all about it. And I did that for quite a long time. And then I hid my pregnancy, which for about 5 months. And, so it was, I was 15. I had my son 2 months before I turned 16. His dad was 17. So we were, teenage parents.
Yeah.
And moving there was horrible for, it was just very difficult, very chaotic. It was just very chaotic. And, but, looking back, that my son really just, I feel really just has been a catalyst for growth always. And perseverance and saving me from myself, really, truly.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that it's so important for stories like yours to be heard, because there is, I think that paths that might stray a little bit from what is normal or expected or whatever, especially when we're teenagers, it can feel like, oh, I deviated from that thing I was told I was supposed to do in what order, and now, everything's over. When really it's just like, okay, how is this going to play into your story? We, before we started the podcast, we were mostly an event company for teen girls in like inner city LA. And I was working with a man who was doing some workshops with a group of teen mothers. There's a lot of the girls that get pregnant in high school either drop out or leave for another program or don't finish the program at all. And there's a school in LA that takes all the teen moms, and they have their babies and they continue and they finish out their programs. So Kashia and I were like, why don't we do, I don't think there's ever been a summit put on for teen moms, pregnant and teen moms. And we're going to bring them in a room and we're going to talk about motherhood and how that can play into your goals and your life and how your life isn't over, and how this could just be a unique new part of your story. And it was one of the most impactful things that I think I've done professionally, because, it can be so tempting to, judge a young person for like, oh, you made that decision that you weren't supposed to make or whatever. But I'm like, I stood there looking at these girls and I'm like, they're so innocent, and this is just, they're like creating life too, which is such a beautiful thing. And can be that. And I love to hear your story, and I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about, raising your son, what that looked like. Was the father, did he continue to be in the picture, or what were those next steps for you?
Well, so when I turned 16, we got engaged to be married, and we both moved out into his older niece's apartment. She had a daughter at the time. She had a husband and a daughter at the time. And it was a great fit for us, we thought. His father, my son's father, worked in the oil fields and making great money. And the plan was to save money and go, get our own place and live happily ever after. His niece was selling him drugs, and he had crazy hours. So he had like 8 a.m. to midnight, and then the next week it'd be midnight to 8 a.m. And so she kept feeding him these drugs to stay awake. And then when I found out about it, because I'm like, it's about time for us to move out. We have plenty of money. Let's go. And he's like, no, we don't have any money. And I'm like, what?
Oh my gosh.
And then he confessed that he was buying drugs from her, and we would fight about it. And I was just like, I can't do this anymore. I just can't. So I moved back home, and during that time when I moved home, my mother had left my stepfather. And so there's even more chaos. And so he moved back home, I moved home, and then shortly after, so we kind of decided you can have our son for, X amount of days on, and then I'd have him for X amount of days. And he had a really big family, a really close, tight-knit family. His mother was an angel to me and my son. She just thought he was the greatest thing on the planet. And she had tons of grandchildren.
Yeah.
He was definitely one of her favorites. And I could see that so clearly. There was tons of aunts, uncles, cousins, like kids everywhere. It was just such a great, tight-knit family. So I moved in with my stepfather, and he's kind of losing his mind because my mother just upped and left him. Took my brother and my little sister with them. So when things got really bad in terms of the electricity going out, the lawn up to your knees not being mowed, everybody lost it. So my mother, and then I came home one day, my mother had taken all the furniture. It was just chaos.
Yeah.
And so I decided, okay, well, my neighbors I used to babysit for, they're like, what's going on over here? I said, well, my mother left and I don't know. We don't have any electricity. And said, well, you're moving in with us. So literally I'm moving my things over, and my brother-in-law comes swinging by to check in, and he's like, what's going on? So I told him, and he said, no, you're coming with me. You're not moving in with strangers. Right. Because my sister married him, and then 3 months later, she left him for his best friend. So it gets even more crazy.
This is like a movie plot.
So it is quite wild. So fasten your seatbelts.
Yeah.
So I move in with him in his small apartment, and we're still arranging those days on and off with our son. And when I didn't have my son, I would go out, with my friends, and I met an older guy. I met this really hot older guy, had a motorcycle. He was absolutely, wow. And from that point, I just didn't see myself with the father anymore. It was just like such a switch. And I think that was very divine because because then his father lost his mother, spiraled even further, and then lost his father. It was just chaotic and emotional. He was an emotional wreck, and getting more into drugs and losing weight. It was just so unattractive, and I just knew I wanted to become something else. I hated Bakersfield in the first place. I hated everything about it. I never fit in there. And so fast forward, the person I was staying with, my brother-in-law, was going to move onto a boat and give the apartment up. So I had to find a place to go. I called my mom. Hey, Mom, can I move in with you for a little while until I figure it out, And she declined, said that I couldn't. So, and I hadn't talked to my father in 5 years, so I had to bite the bullet and call him and ask him for help. So on my 17th birthday, I called he picked me up from Bakersfield. He lived in Orange County. And the day that I turned 17 was the day that I came to Orange County, finished school. And then I went, and I was going to another school for a trade. I had to do something quick and fast. So I went through a 350-hour manicuring course. So I became a manicurist, a licensed manicurist. And then I got a job, and then found a place to live. And then I had my son with me. He was like about 3. But every weekend I would drive a Greyhound bus to go see him. Not every single weekend, but lots of weekends, 4 hours up there and 4 hours back to see my son. And because I wanted him to remember who his mother was. But so that was a really, really just, you know, it was a time where when I was living with my father for a year, difficult. My father has, you know, an alcoholic problem. He's an alcoholic. And so it was just becoming very unhealthy as well. So I knew I just had to, you know, get out as soon as I could. And being busy was great, you know, going to school and doing all of that, completing that, and getting a job. And then I met some really great people, a Hawaiian family. She had a daughter, and I moved in with them. And then, you know, my son came to live with me.
Wow.
But it was, you know, it was tough. It was really tough. But I'm grateful for all of the lessons, you know, as my younger years, about responsibility and being independent and just getting things done and having this internal thing of wanting more for yourself and knowing that there's more out there. And you can become whoever you want to be or choose to be. You just have to do a little work around that. And, you know, like I said earlier, my son has always been a catalyst for growth and perseverance. And he still is. He's my favorite person on the planet, next to my grandson.
That's so beautiful. And I thank you for sharing your story. You have been through so much change. And, you know, I think it's kind of crazy that, you know, the work that you do, that's so much about, you know, finding your inner stability and calm and presence, you know, and in a way, you know, the way that you grew up, there was so much instability, it sounds like, you know, a lot of changing factors and people, you know, coming and going. And, you know, I think it's kind of beautiful that you have, you know, evolved into this person where it's like you're kind of the opposite of that in a way. Like you've created this inner stability for yourself. And I think that's really inspiring.
Thank you for saying that. Yes, I don't desire to live worrying about tomorrow. Just be present. I feel like I'm an extrovert, but I'm also an introvert. I need a lot of time to recover from the massive amount of energy that I have around people. And I need to really kind of search myself and kind of go, what's next? Like when I was 17, with all that time that I had, you know, alone, not taking care of a baby, but going to school, I created a vision board, and I didn't even know what I was doing. I was just pasting pictures on a board. My father's a photographer, so he had these, you know, canvases, and I just used a really big canvas, and I was just putting all these things up, like travel, dance, movement, health, and look where we are today. It's you know, it's really powerful. The mind and the subconscious, and, you know, the desire, like, but you need the time. You need to shut all that other stuff out in order to really identify what is important. And, you know, just what is important to me today is family, family first, God first, and my longevity. I want to be around for my great grandchildren. So I have a leg up on that. I'm a young grandmother. My grandson's just over 2, and I want to be able to do fun things with him. I want to be able to teach him things, and I want to be able to be a source of comfort and wisdom, and their parents are doing an amazing job, but I want to be a part of their life. And if nobody's going to take care of me, I have to take care of myself. And that looks, from just what type of water I drink, what foods I choose to eat, how much time do I spend in meditation or in prayer, and what am I prioritizing? What's most important? And, to everyone that looks different, but to me, there are those three main things.
Well, I think too, the impact of a grandparent that can be active and present is just, such a gift to a grandchild. And, even just thinking of being a teen mom, not that we would recommend, having children in your teen years, but an unexpected, benefit of that is that you're around. You might even see that, next generation and still be kicking and playing with them then. I think that there's always, two different sides to every, penny or dealt or whatever, that there's always a bet if you're looking for it, and focusing on like, okay, what is that, the feeling, what is movement, and, a feeling, not so much, we can't always dictate the exact path that, comes together for us. And there's always going to be surprising things, but, I think it's so cool that you, like that vision board story where you had this idea, that this is where I'm going, and you've navigated that way, and it seems like you continue to do that, and that you're now passing that forward to the people that you work with and the people that you inspire. This is such a great story, and I just so appreciate you being here, Lisa.
Thank you, Asha.
We always like to end our interviews with the same question. What is a quality or personality trait in your teen self that maybe you didn't appreciate at the time, but looking back, you really love and appreciate now?
I think I've always been sensitive and soft-hearted, so I didn't really think that served me well as a younger person. But today I really think that for me, it's helped me in who I've become and how I'm able to help others with that sensitivity of others. And it kind of, just your intuition, just being very aware of what others might need. And so I think it serves me well today, may have not served me well back then. And I was always thinking, well, why am I being punished for being sensitive about an issue or ridiculed or whatever, because I felt like I was too sensitive to everything. And I think it was really the people around me were just so calloused.
Yeah. I think that sensitivity can really be such a gift that it can be difficult to manage, but I personally relate to that so much. And it's like, okay, then finding the path that channels that sensitivity, like in what you do, being able to read people and respond and help, and take feedback, all requires such great sensitivity. So thank you so much. I can't wait for this episode to impact so many people, and I really appreciate you. So thank you, Lisa. We'll talk soon.
Thank you so much, Asha.
And that's our show. If you liked what you heard today, please like, subscribe to, follow, and share Meet Bridget with your circle. The best way to help our work here is to rate and review our podcast. We're listening and constantly working to build something helpful for you. Catch you next time.
Bring it